welcome to our Morning Throners podcast.
I'm Nelson.
I'm Jeff.
And I'm Kyle.
And we're your Morning Throners.
And welcome back to another episode of your favorite Song of Ice and Fire podcast. We are your Morning Throners with the Prophet, Aaron 1, Damper on deck. Gentlemen, how you guys doing?
Good. I definitely want to get some thoughts from Kyle pretty early on this one. What'd you think of like the whole, we talked about it at the end of Storm of Swords, the whole like we have a character, but we don't really know who it is right away. Like how long, I mean, I guess the answer's probably going to be pretty quick, but like how long?
This one was really quick.
I feel like it's different for you, maybe because we're going through it so like close. I feel like literally when I read Feast of Crows for the first time, I'd be like halfway through one of these chapters and be like, who the fuck is the POV right now? Jeff, you had
I definitely felt that. I was probably like, is this a different book? What am I reading right now?
Yeah.
Who? Like by this time, I probably even forgot. Like I didn't forget who Theon was because that's like I think I watched the show before I read this.
Yeah,
but I definitely was like, Asha, what the fuck? Like what the what the fuck are we talking about here?
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
Kyle,
I don't know. I didn't honestly have that with this because like I guess because you kind of prepared me for these being all new people. And the whole chapter not named after the person, but it also says his name pretty early on, and I just kind of felt like I remembered this dude for some reason.
He has been shown up twice before. I think the real memorable thing he does is when he's with Theon at the Stony Shore.
Yeah, and he like talks shit on him, right, or something.
Well, Theon is basically they're taking over. I forget who it is, but I think Benfred Tallheart. I don't think they're capturing Tallheart yet, but I think Benfred Tallheart, who was one of Theon's friends when he was at Winterfell, was sent to stop it, and Aeron makes Theon drown Benfred. Like Theon's gonna cut his head off or whatever, and Aeron's like, "No, you gotta throw him down the well or throw him in the sea or something like that, right?" Because, and again, It seems pretty in character after we've got this chapter, but yeah, he is all about drowned God.
Well, I didn't realize that he was trying to bring people back too. So, like, I guess that's just the people that are then going to be like acolytes or whatever. Or
it seems like that. That's what my kind of question was too. Like, are these just like a baptism, or are these now like new followers of church, or like their church?
I think these are the people that are at the end, essentially, right? Like the crazies.
I don't know. I take it as this is a pretty common thing in this neck of the woods.
Actually, you're right when you say that.
I think it's like their baptism, like ritual. Like every kid had mentioned that they did it on their name day. So it's like their baptism, but then like to become like a child, like a true child of like the drowned God, you need to do it again with the damp hair to like be his follower.
I just think as time has gone on, a lot of their traditions have gone not as hardcore, right? Same thing with the people in the North. Like I think we know like the North used to do like sacrifice people and shit like that, like actually like kill people and stuff. Like,
well, sometimes you gotta let a couple people go.
I just think like a lot of that has gone away, and Aeron's like, no, that was the way to do it. We actually drown people. We don't just
that
do
was
this
the problem.
baptized thing. Like women are not okay. Like a lot of people seem to be like, yeah, Asha could rule. That seems okay. And Aeron's like, the Ironborn would never be okay with that. But like pretty much every Ironborn we talked to throughout the chapter besides Aeron is like, so is it going to be Asha?
We only really talked to two. So
the two lords
mention Asha. They're the only two people that mention Asha. It's not like we're taking polls. It's not like we're taking polls and 700 Ironborn have been like pro Asha. We have no idea how many are pro Asha.
Well, Balon was even pro Asha. So I mean, I think that kind of shows where most of them would be at, I think, Jeff. Like,
I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just not assuming based off of one lord saying that he was going to go to 10 towers.
And that's fair. I just think it's more. I that's my point here, though, is Aeron seems way more traditionalist than even the Ironborn. Like, I would disagree with Kyle when he was saying that it doesn't seem like most people take this faith, or one of you guys was saying it doesn't seem like people take this faith super seriously. Like, even the guy that Aeron is like saying, hey, this guy who hasn't seen the sea, or he lives so far away from the sea, he doesn't respect our faith. Even that guy sent his son and two other people to go get like the famous priest on the island to get his counsel, right? So like clearly people value his opinion.
No. They sent for him because he is the brother of this new king and of the kings.
I think it's more that too than him being the priest of.
Okay, that's fair. That's a fair point.
Drowned God.
I think this is like, man, you got to do something about this.
I took it more as they wanted his counsel.
No,
I think they're like, I don't think anybody likes Euron, right?
I'm gonna say it was because he was Balon's brother and probably spent as much time with Balon. Like they asked him what was his secession plans, right?
That's true.
Like that's all they really cared about, I think, was someone who might know what he intended.
Because I think they think he's weird, to be honest.
That's a fair point, and that's something I didn't think about. I was considering that they were respecting him more. I think you guys are right, because even when he basically later at the end when he starts preaching, he says like Euron isn't it. They basically everyone. I think it's everyone and the Lord who's there is like, okay, so who is it? Is it you then? And he's like, no, not me. But like that's like their next thought when he says not Aaron. They're like, okay, you. So yeah, maybe that probably is why they were calling him up.
I think it's also weird. Like he mentions it a couple times. Like they're going the Green Way. It sounds like the Seastone chair was up for grabs. Like fuck it, like we're gonna fight for it now. Like it didn't have to be a Greyjoy. There's a lot of kings in the past that weren't Greyjoys, right? Like,
when he goes through all the people who have got elected through Kingsmoot.
But they're just like, oh, it's got to be a Greyjoy. Where like doesn't sound like it needed to be. But I'm sure we'll learn more. So let's get into it. Aeron is in the sea, drowning new men. Which we don't really understand what that is at this point, but it seems to be his new followers that are joining his cultish following of the drowned god.
So, well, I honestly, before we get into it, though, I don't think you, I guess I answered it, the original question about kind of my opinion on this, this new dude.
Go ahead.
Just because, like, I have something to say about him, and that it's like, even though he's a weirdo, and like I've said, like, you know, like I don't like Stannis because he's strange, and I feel like there was another bunch of chapters that I was like, man, these people are they're hard to read through. This guy is like super intriguing. It's all
he's definitely but
they do some of the weirdest shit though, right? Like I mean, he's fucking just putting people underwater, and he's like, now you can never die. You've died once, and like I don't know. He's just.
I actually think that's a smart way to think about. I actually don't mind this way of life by the Greyjoy man.
It's a hard way of life, but yeah, it is kind of badass.
It's kind of like they're breeding you to be a soldier, right? Like if you can, all right, we've killed you now. Like screw it, you're good. Like
can't get any worse.
Go live your life. You've already died and come back. Like
here's my question: though.
Give it hell.
If there was a guy and you had known that this guy had given CPR, had intentionally drowned and then given CPR to 2,000 people. Would you be as scared to get drowned and brought back by that guy? Like, would drowning be as scary?
100%.
Yeah, drowning is terrifying. Drowning is
definitely terrifying for sure, but like when you know, it's not as bad, right?
Nah,
no way.
It's definitely that bad.
Okay.
Drowning, I think, might be the worst way to go.
So bad too. They even say it in this, right? Like this guy's like
drowning and burning. Those are like the worst two ways, I think.
So yeah, I'm excited about Aeron. Like I don't know that he's a good dude by any means. I'm not trying to say that. I just think he's everything about him. I'm like, I need to hear more about.
I'll say I'm glad you had that feeling, because I had that feeling on this read through where I like am reading it closer and I'm like paying attention. I'm like, dang, this character, like I don't like the guy, but he's a really interesting character, especially because I feel like personally I'm cynical. So when I meet like superly overly religious people this in real life, I'm like, do you actually believe that shit, or like is there an ulterior motive? This guy believes this stuff.
Well, I think when we learned this guy's story, it changed his life, right?
100%.
So I mean, he had a near-death experience, basically, or I mean, he might have died actually twice, because he probably got baptized as a kid, and he got baptized on that warship by Stannis. So like, he's like, oh, screw it, he saved me twice. I might as well believe him, right? So all right,
let's get into it. We're drowning this guy Emmond,
and as he's drowning the guys, there's 3 people that show up on shore. We learn their names are Spar.
The Spar. We call the one guy the Spar.
Okay, the Spar. Safarion is the Spar's son, and then a good brother's son. They all look the same, so we can't really know at this point who it is. But they're watching, and this boy is terrified, which rightfully so.
Yeah. Obviously, like once you've been under for a minute and like it's getting closer to like you're actually running out of air, the boy starts thrashing. He just holds him down. He has all his drowned men around him, so there's this like group of people we learn about called the drowned men. I am actually not sure. Maybe we might learn more. If this is a term used for like anyone who was like baptized the hardcore way, or is this just like the name of the people that are like the 40 people that are hardcore followers of Aeron? Like with
my
him
thought,
right
it's the
followers.
followers.
That's my thought. Yeah.
Everyone is
his inner
like,
circle.
Even if it's not like, oh, when were you last drowned? And like they kind of mentions it like they were just like dunked in a little pool.
They were legit baptized, just dumped in some water.
They got their head wet.
I mean, you would know better than me, Jeff, how baptized works. But my assumption is like you pretty much just dump a baby in like a little bit of water, right? Or pour some on its head, something like that.
Yeah, I think it depends on where you're at. Some people get dunked in the pool. Some people just put like water and oils on the head. But
I think this is definitely an intentional parallel by George. Right?
Yeah, no, it's a baptism. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So the dude's freaked out. So they hold him down till he dies, till he drowns.
Yeah.
And then they drag him to shore and immediately start CPR, which they don't know. They're just like doing shit that they're like, oh, this brings people back, right? Pumping his chest, and then he gives him the kiss of life, which is just mouth to mouth.
So we actually have heard of this recently, very recently. Kyle,
yeah, with the cat stuff, right?
Not with the cat stuff. More recently than that.
I don't even know what you're referring to.
Dunk
and Egg, yeah.
Dunk drowned in the river. And the maester, when he brings it back, he's like, you're lucky that before I became a maester, I was from the Iron Islands. So where they do this drowning and bringing people back shit all the time. So like once I became a maester, that was something that I like to study and like learn how.
That's funny.
Worked.
I didn't put that together by any means.
So you definitely did, because even when I said that line in Dunk and Egg, you said like, okay, I'm guessing this is important. Like that must be why you're bringing this up. Like you made a comment like that. You normally don't make comments like that, but
I didn't pay attention here is what I'm saying.
Of course, Nelson shed light on something important.
Yeah, exactly, Joe.
Yeah, but that was me trying to point out a little bit of foreshadowing that Kyle like caught my. I guess I was being too obvious about it.
Yep. So as this guy wakes up and starts coughing out the water, they have this saying part of the ritual, right? Which is pretty cool words for the drowned men and the Ironborn.
Yeah. The what is dead can never die. Is that what you're talking about?
But comes back. And then like I like the second part too.
But rises.
But I don't think I have it all.
Rises again.
Yeah.
Harder and stronger. I think they say it differently every time. But yeah. Oh yeah. Rises again, harder and stronger.
I don't think they say it differently. I think it just takes his cat a couple times to say.
Oh yeah, because he's coughing. Yep.
Yeah.
This feels a little bit Bane-y. That's why you like it, right? Isn't The Dark Knight Rises?
Rise.
It's just well, I do like
Rise. Isn't that what chant?
Cool. Yeah.
When he's getting out of the hole.
Yeah, I actually like Dark Knight way better than Dark Knight Rises, but Dark Knight Rises is still cool.
But I think this is probably one of the things that you were liking earlier, Jeff, when you were saying like, yeah, this guy lives by a hardcore lifestyle, but some of it is badass, and the part
I think it's just a badass way to like breed your followers, right? Like if you wanted to, hold on, every one of these men is now being like, most of them are trained to be soldiers and trained to be on a longship, right? So this is like Navy SEAL training.
Well, not these guys though. These guys are just going to stand behind Aaron and yell about the drowned guy.
I get it, but every other man,
yes,
right, is being trained to be on a longship and be a warrior for this island and to raid and shit. They're basically doing like Navy SEAL type shit. Like, all right, you've already done the toughest thing. Now let's go do some shit. Let's go reeve. I'm not saying it's the right way of life, but I'm saying for their purpose of what they're trying to achieve.
That's kind of what I'm getting at, I guess. It's like their perspective is so sour, though, that he's like, fucking life must be miserable to make you tough. Like, that's such an awful way to live. Like, why would you just, like, I must inflict pain on myself in order to become a better person is what is his literal philosophy. It's like, why, dude? Like,
he's also the most extreme too.
He says another line about this later when he's leaving the castle after the guy offers him like a night and stay in the castle. But the line he says here to that is when the kid is coughing up all this water and he's trying to say rises again, harder and stronger. Aaron says every word was brought with pain, but that was the way of the world. A man must fight to live. So I think that's kind of like what Jeff's saying is like, this is a good training early on. I agree with Kyle that in real life, this is not practical because again, we talked about it in the Duncan Knight thing. Like you don't have 100% survivorship rate. Aaron does. So when Aaron does,
so let me change my tune on like, it's not Navy SEALs. It's more like Spartan training, right?
That's what I was thinking.
And like them sending off the kids like, all right, let's see which kid comes back. If he didn't, well, he probably wasn't strong enough. Exactly. But the kids that do, you're going to be a dope ass Spartan and we can trust you to defend our country and shit like that.
The Ironborn actually remind me a little bit of the Unsullied in that aspect, but also a little bit of the Dothraki. And we'll get to a little bit of that later.
All right. But. So he then goes over to these riders and he's like, yo, any of you guys been drowned recently? And they all kind of be like, yeah, on my name day. And they got a shower basically.
No, I think when they said name day, they meant on their actual name day. Like the day I was born, I was baptized.
Yeah, they got a little bath. They got They got dunked in the water, right?
When I first heard that, I was just confused if they meant like, oh, I got water poured on my head on my last birthday, or like, no, they meant the actual day they were. Because at first I thought they meant they were actually drowned this way on their birthday.
Yeah.
Imagine if they were drowning babies the way Aaron's drowning this thing on the day the baby's born. Like, there's no way Aaron's giving CPR to a baby.
Got to see which baby's right.
That's what he wants to do, man.
That's crazy.
That's the only way to make everybody stronger. You know, be a good person if you can
Like, was Aaron drowned? Was Aaron drowned the way he's drowning people before?
He was naturally drowned.
Before that.
I think he was drowned this hardcore way as, like, I don't know, a 5-year-old. Whenever they say, like, all right, it's time for you to get drowned.
Yeah, okay.
And then, obviously, he was in the war.
Was Theon drowned? Theon was 10 when he got taken by Ned.
No.
Didn't sound like it.
Yeah, it didn't sound like
raise the age. Raise the age.
Okay,
I don't think Theon was.
Was Asha drowned?
Yes.
Hardcore style.
Hardcore style.
Okay. I think so too. I don't think there's confirmation of it, but yeah.
I just don't see how this version of Aaron would go back to Balon and be like, you need me to let you. I need to drown these kids. Like they need to be drowned.
Sure. Yeah, he would. Yeah, he would need it.
Yeah. All right. So Gorman, good brother. We find out he's the one. He's like, yo, you got to come see my dad. Stat, we need you. And he's like, fuck you. I ain't going nowhere for y'all. Like, do y'all know who I am? Like, I got shit to do. And he's like, nope, you got to come.
He says the king is dead, and he's like, oh, fuck.
Well, he's like, all right, tell me what it is, and I'll decide if I have to go or not. And
there's a raven. Dead.
He's like, well, you can't tell in front of your people. And like, these are my people. Like, speak your truth or get the fuck out. And they're like, all right, the king's dead.
Aaron is always like, my way or the highway, bro. I don't care. Like, earlier he rode this whole way. For that shit. The maester, he's like, get the maester out of here. He's like, nope. And Aaron's like, all right, I'm leaving.
Well, he's got shit to do. You know?
Yeah.
He's got drowned men work to get done.
Yeah. Well, he's very self-righteous, right? Like that's
he's the prophet. Called himself the prophet.
Exactly.
That's like
the
most egotistical third person name you could give yourself.
Yes, it's pretty up there.
Yeah. So the Raven came for Pike. King's dead. And how did he die? I think we knew how he died.
Yep. Fell off a bridge in a storm. Yep. We knew that 100%.
Okay.
Stannis or somebody heard about it for sure.
Well, I knew that we heard about this kind of from the Ghost of Highheart with like a cryptic message about it.
Mm-hmm.
But we definitely didn't get specifics.
Yeah, we had this discussion.
We didn't get specifics from that. So, but I think you're right. We did hear confirmation from somebody else.
We talked about it. We talked about the ghost and Stannis when we talked about hearing about it.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So he's like, all right, fine. I'll go see your dad. I ain't riding a side saddle with you.
Yeah, well, that's funny. But when he says he died, Aaron's like, was there a storm? And he's like, yeah, there was. He's like, it must have been the storm god.
The storm god. Yeah.
Like, obviously there was
the
a
devil.
storm. I knew it. Like, which I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, he definitely attributes it.
Hey, I mean, we got these guys are getting revived 100% from drowning, which is definitely not realistic. We got Melisandre doing fire stuff. So I'm not saying there's no drown god or a storm god, but you know what I mean?
That's what I was going to say. This is funny that the other like really crazy religious stuff is the other stuff that's kind of coming true so far.
Exactly.
They're just like praying to like the seven or whatever, or the new guy. Like it's not the old gods like that's kind of like, you know, tame compared to what's happening in these weird cult kind of situations. Yeah. And this is the stuff that's actually working.
I feel it's weird that he is like against the storm god, because I feel like the storm god and the drown god go hand in hand. Like,
yeah, sea and storm seem
if
like they
if a
boat
together. Is just on calm waters, it's probably not sinking, but like shit happens in a storm and it capsizes, or that's when you feed the drown god. Like, does the drown god need offerings type stuff? Like, I feel like they just kind of go hand in hand. But all right, get off your horse. I ain't riding with you. It'll be faster with just me. And he starts riding off to his place, which is called Hammerhorn.
Kind of badass name, Hammerhorn. Yep,
it's pretty dope. That is
cool name.
Sounds like penis.
Nelson would never come up with like a unique name like that. Nelson would just name it like.
Just wait till I start writing my fantasy novel one day, and then I have all this cool original stuff.
Copyright. It's never. It's impossible. Your main character is going to be named like Bobby Dunk, and his best friend's going to be Belwas Tarth.
You know, one of the most famous cities in Lord of the Rings for the elves is called Tyrion. So George is just copy pasting his favorite stuff from other stuff too.
No one's original anymore.
Weirwoods are named after Bob Weir, lead singer of the Grateful Dead, because George is a deadhead. We're all just copy pasting. We're all standing on the shoulders of giants. That's who said that? Newton? I think Isaac Newton said that. There you go. I'm the next one.
All right. And before he leaves, he's like, yo, drown men, meet me at this spot. I'll be there later.
Pebbleton. The cool thing about Pebbleton is the Lord here is Lord Merlin. Like,
yep, he's just a wizard.
Marwyn the mage. Now we got Lord Merlin in his tower. Like,
I didn't.
But we're riding to Hammerhorn. You didn't think that was weird? A weird name, Merlin?
I didn't think it was weird. There's a lot weirder names.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of this is really predisposed me to just kind of like whatever, you know.
What the fuck's his name?
Gorman,
and Gammond, and whatever these other dudes' names were. Like I had like.
Yeah. They're weird. So the Good Brothers, Nelson mentioned this, land was or their spot was really far inland, so far that you can't even see the sea, which I think kind of brings it to, like, Iron Islands are pretty big, which I don't know.
Send you guys the map.
No one cares about the map. No one cares about timelines.
Is this Great Wick? Is that where we're at here?
Yeah, hang on. Time out. We don't have to look at the map because it actually doesn't matter too much for this because you don't actually see cities on any of the islands. It does kind of show you how big the islands are in comparison to each other. But the other thing I sent you guys, which the fans can also see at this time, is the new Aaron art.
Yeah, man.
I think the art for Aaron is pretty cool. We got the seaweed in his beard and everything.
Yeah, it looks good.
Artist did a good job with that.
Love it.
If you want the artist, link is in the description.
Good job, artist. All right. So as he's writing, he thinks of all of his brothers, which we find out at one point he had 9, but only 4 have truly lived to become men. And I didn't take their names down. There's a lot of them. Nelson, that's where you come in.
I'll hit it quick. I do like this. This is one of the things that he definitely repeats a few times. This, at least part of it. The 9 sons had been born from the loins of Quelon Greyjoy, and blah 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 was Balon was the bravest, Victarion was the strongest, and then he's like, I was the weakest. Like he says this like, well, we're born from the loins of, and then blah 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 was the. But yeah, like Jeff said, only 4 lived to manhood. From the first wife, they all died pretty quick. We had Harlon, who died from grayscale. The other 2 just died as infants.
Quentin and Donnell.
Yep, Quentin and Donnell. From the second wife, this is basically all the ones that matter. Balon, in order, Balon, Euron, Victarion, Eragon, and Aeron. Aeron is Damphair, who we're reading about now. And then the third wife, she had one son who, what does he say about him? Robin Greyjoy.
Sickly idiot boy named Robin, the brother best forgotten.
Yeah, I didn't know if that meant he died or they just they don't talk about him. But he says only 4 lived to manhood, so I'm guessing he died. But
he sounds like Robin in the area almost.
Yeah.
And then he just hypes up his old big brother Balon.
He was born a lord's son, died a king, murdered by a jealous god, and now the storm is coming, a storm such as these isles have never known.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And Balon was just like the best Ironborn, right? Like he did everything cool. He was a good sailor. He climbed some mountain, cliff rock.
All
the challenges he passed, early too.
He was with Dagmar as a young teen.
Yeah, because what we've seen of Balon, we haven't really seen anything cool. The coolest thing that I like about Balon is what he says later on after we learn about what happened to the one brother who lost his hand, like some of his fingers. When Balon gets back, he's like, "Okay, eye for an eye," but we'll get to that in a little bit. So we get to Hammerhorn.
Before that, he just mentions how he himself was a disappointment. I don't think we learned too much about that's for later on.
Oh yeah, he's like, "I'm weak," and I was the worst of them, or something like that.
Yep. And so he does get the Hammerhorn, and Gormund.
Good brother.
Gran, with an N?
Yeah, with an N, G-R-A-N.
Are these guys, it doesn't really matter. I'm guessing these guys are triplets.
It sounds like it, yeah.
Because he says they look alike, which could just mean they're brothers, but here, when Aaron says, which one are you? Like, you wouldn't say that to just like a brother, right? Like, the kid wouldn't know what he's talking about unless he was a triplet.
Well, this is known, though. That, like he said, it's said that you can't tell the 3 of his kids apart.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't matter. So, but yeah, it's Grant. He gets let in. He goes in to see Lord Goodbrother. His daughters are in there doing the fire stuff and trying to give him some water or some wine or something. He's like, get these women and your maester, get him all out of here. He does. Oh, yeah, he doesn't like maesters ever since. And again, we learned a little bit about this later, but he says he doesn't trust maesters ever since the healing of Uragon. Yeah. So he's like, get the girls out, get the maester out. He's like, I'm not getting the maester out. Aaron's like, all right, peace then. Like, fuck him. But when he's about to get to the door, the maester's like, the crow's eye.
Yeah, you know the brother you hate? Yeah, he took the throne.
Yeah, he's on the chair.
You got to do something here, man.
Yep. Also, I just love some of the way, like, Aaron thinks about this maester is just like, who would be a thrall to this service? Who would build a chain? Like, he's so just like, he hates his maester.
Meanwhile,
so
he's
much.
Like in the ocean.
Yeah, he's in service to his god, right? Like
in a seal diaper.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so he says Euron's on the seastone chair, and Aaron does not like this at first. He's like, the crow's eye's half a world away. Balon sent him away and said if he came back, he would die. Like, that meant his life.
Pretty crazy. He showed up like the next day.
The day after Balon's death. Yeah, kind of weird.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, I wonder if he's seeing things in the flames. It's the only way I know to see the future so far, so I'm going to go with that.
Wow, he just learned how to be a red priest?
No, that other religion. Yeah, he met up with somebody.
He was out over there, right?
He was half a world away, just exiled.
All right.
But he's back. He was ready.
And now he's calling everyone to Pike to bend the knee to him. So he's like, I got the chair. I'm in charge. Let's get it done.
What should I do? Yeah, is what this guy's asking.
Euron has this thing, another thing that he keeps saying over and over again, especially when it comes to Euron. Why Euron, like, because Euron's the second eldest, right? So, like, if we're actually going by laws, right, which is what the Maester tries to do in a little bit, like, hey, it's Theon. If he's dead, then it's Asha, which is weird because I feel like by laws,
shouldn't be Asha.
Like, wouldn't it just go to the son? Like, we really don't
Yeah.
acknowledge women, really, for the most part, even in the Greenlands. But
Agreed.
whatever. The Maester seems to think that that's the rule in whatever. But he's like, yeah, so Euron would be next. If we're discounting those two, Euron's next because he's next oldest. So the reason Euron says this is no good is because no godly man can sit the Seastone chair. Again, I feel like when you're the prophet, you can kind of just make up rules as you go, right? And I don't even know if he knows he's doing it, but like, do they have a holy text? Does it say somewhere in their holy text?
We haven't heard anything about that yet.
No godly man. Like, where is this coming from?
At some point, they had to decide to, say that we were drowned people, right? Or like that there was a sea god. I don't know. Like at some point, somebody declared
he says we came from the sea. He says the Ironborn came from the sea.
What does that even mean, though?
Who knows?
Walked out of the water?
We're going back to the sea, too, is the other,
Oh, yeah, along the lines of, like, kind of just shit that Euron seems to pull out of his ass is, like, he also, besides no godly man can sit the Seastone chair, he also says, like, a woman cannot rule us. Like, is that written down somewhere? Like I said, I kind of mentioned this earlier. Like, is that an agreement? Do the other lords think that a woman can't rule? And I guess Jeff said only two have confirmed that, but yeah, it's like he's just kind of pulling some of this out of his ass.
I mean, it's been an old.
This is probably just historical.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty historical.
Well, we talked about it at the beginning a little bit, right? Well, I said this at the beginning. Jeff said, I said we got confirmation that two of the lords don't care about this, and Jeff mentioned like, yeah, that's only two people though. Like, it might be a more, but like this guy doesn't seem to care, and the other lord doesn't seem to care.
I feel like they care in the Seven Kingdoms, though.
I 100% agree. But Asha is a badass.
Yeah, I mean,
Balin was fully ready to change that, and let her rule.
Balin's a badass, and he was ready to hand it off to her. But
I mean, the Balin I knew was a dick, so let me just clear that up. I don't know that I thought he was a badass.
Yeah, I mean,
personally, I mean, you guys might know more about him or whatever.
It's perspective. So. I mean, it's what we hear here. What we've seen of him before is him being a dick to Theon because Theon's friends with the Starks, and we don't like that because we're also friends with the Starks. Yeah. But like from his point of view, the Ironborn way of life is just badass. I don't think it actually mentioned.
I don't think it's badass. I think it's sad. I think it's really sad. And these poor guys, like they can't get out of their own way because they like think that we have to be tough because we're stuck on these islands. It's like, go somewhere else then, man. This place sounds like hell.
I see what you're saying, but there are some cool parts to it. They're like Jeff said, their mentality is just like very hardcore. Like what are their words?
I don't know.
I actually don't remember.
We do not sow.
Yeah, I did know that.
Which means like we don't farm, we don't mine, we fucking take shit from other people.
We steal and kill, and that's
we are literally pirates.
Anything you have, you stole from somebody.
Yeah, when Theon shows up, what's the problem Balon has? The main thing
he didn't steal all the jewelry or whatever he's wearing.
He paid the gold price, not the iron price for it, right? So again, Balon is, I feel like, very old way, not in the exact same way that Euron is, but like in a same sense, right? Like he's like, we are Ironborn. We're not the same as those people on the Greenlands. We do things different here. So yeah, I think that's why they get along. But again, it's interesting because again, they're talking about the succession here. Like, hey, you talked to Balon recently. What did he say? And he tells him like, actually, the Lord asked Euron, what did Balon say? Euron thinks about that Balon wanted Asha. And basically Euron had told him no. But before Euron can say anything, the Maester speaks up and starts saying, Euron's the older brother, like it should go to Theon, then Asha. And the quote is, Euron silenced him with a look. In little fishing towns and great stone keeps alike, such a look from damp hair would make maids feel faint and send children shrieking to their mothers. And it was more than sufficient to quell the chain-necked thrall. Like, he's just so dismissive of the chain-necked thrall. Like, makes him sound like a slave, the Maester. Literally a slave. That's what that sounds like. Chain-necked thrall. If you don't know he's talking about a Maester. You know what I mean? Like,
he doesn't like
for him. Sure, yeah. He has nothing but contempt for this dude.
He hates this dude.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I didn't like Jaime. I didn't like a lot of other people at first, but this guy I'm into.
Why does he hate this dude?
Well, he hates this dude because he helped kill his brother.
Exactly. He hates this dude because he helped kill his brother.
Well, not this dude, but the Maesters in general.
Exactly. But who's the one that cut off half his brother? Like,
well, yeah, I mean, they were playing a game.
He cut off his own brother's hand, and now he's blaming the Maester for not being able to heal it.
They were playing a game. What are you talking about? So he has guilt is why he hates Maesters. It's his own guilt.
Exactly. Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. But what I was trying to say, I guess, is like we go through all these other asshole characters, and this guy's just like such a dick. And I don't know why he is so much more intriguing to me than any of the other ones have been so far. Like I am ready for this guy.
Yep. So it's also funny, like Aeron has a favorite because he's basically like, yeah, Euron might be next or whatever, but Victarion's better. Like he's more godly. Which
this sounds exactly like the dragons, right? The black dragon, red dragon, from the last, or not the last chapter, from the Duncan Egg we read.
Yep, exactly. Blackfire Rebellion stuff.
Where, yeah, the one that wasn't actually in succession was given the weapon, essentially, the weapon to rule with. And now there's kind of controversy over who's next.
Yep, exactly.
And Victarion here has the fleet, which is essentially the Ironborn's power, right? Like that's what these dudes are known for, is their prowess in the water.
Exactly. Like I always say, like I like to argue about like legally by the Westerosi law what should happen next, but really that doesn't matter. Like Robert wasn't next in line. I mean, he kind of actually was if you look at lineage. So he's up there because he does have Targaryen like grandparents. But regardless, he didn't take the throne because of his lineage. He took the throne because he fucking won a big ass war, right? So it doesn't really matter what the law says at the end of the day. It matters who can take what they want. So
who can enforce the law?
Yeah, and like Kyle said, Victarion does. Like he's the admiral of the fleet. Everyone's got a little captain and they got some shit, but like Victarion's got the fleet. So
yeah, but they can't fight each other though.
Yeah.
So that's the next thing they get into is we can't spill the blood of Ironborn. Can't spill the blood of Ironborn. Well,
technically,
and again, I feel like he's pulling this out of his ass. We haven't heard of holy text. Where is this coming from? But we hear, your brother's not upholding to that. He already drowned Swain Botley for trying to support Theon. And Aeron backs Euron here. He's like, well, he didn't spill blood.
He didn't spill blood.
He just drowned him. Technically, there's no blood. Yeah.
We've had this exact same technicality, not with drowning, but we've had he technically didn't spill blood technicality with killing before. Where else are you not allowed to spill blood?
Dothraki City, whatever that was.
Exactly. And they killed Dany's brother by pouring gold on him.
Yeah.
So no drowning, no blood was spilled. I think we also hear in the Dany stuff that like in Vaes Dothrak they like strangle each other with like silk. Like they do kill each other. They just make sure
it still happens.
Make sure not to spill blood. So
that's funny.
But again, I like kind of like a weird comparison. Dothraki are kind of like savages, right? Like they have some hardcore tendencies, and the Ironborn
and you
are
like these guys, and yeah.
I'm just saying, Aeron is definitely anti-Euron here. But when they're like, when he's like, Ironborn can't kill Ironborn or spill the blood of Ironborn, and they're like, well, your brother already did it. He's like, actually, my brother was okay because he drowned him. So as long as he's drowning people, that's fine.
He has a code. I mean, let's just like the dude has a code, and he.
Well, I like how then the Maester and the Lord kind of like give each other a look.
They're like, this guy's crazy.
Yeah, fuck it. This dude is nuts. Exactly, which is what Jeff was saying, right? He's got a code, but his code is weird.
His
shit.
line is at a different spot than our line.
It's hard. It's a hard code to follow, but he's doing it, and yeah. So he's like, all right. Don't say anything. I need to pray, and
he's like, I gotta send a letter. What should I answer with? And he's like, for now, send only silence. I must pray on this. I think this is cool. Again, I don't think this is a spoiler because I can't think why it matters. But like, Euron's ship is named Silence, and I know we've heard this before. I think Theon has said it. So I think it's weird here that he's just because it's weird because it comes up twice back to back. He says, I gotta pray on this. What shall it be, homage or defiance? He says, Damper, I would need your counsel. What shall it be, homage or defiance? Aeron tugged on his beard and thought, I have seen the storm, and its name is Euron Crow's Eye. For now, send only silence, he told the Lord. I must pray on this. Pray all you wish, said the Maester. It does not change the law. Theon is the rightful heir, and Asha next. Silence, Aeron roared. Too long have the Ironborn listened to your chain-necked Maesters prating of the Greenlands and their laws. It's time to listen to the sea again. But he says, send only silence, and then when the Maester starts peeping up, he says, silence! I think that's interesting because we don't hear silence that often, and silence is the name of Euron's ship, and it's like when he's asking about like, oh, should we back up Euron or not? Aeron says the name silence twice, and Aeron would know this. I don't know if that's intentional, but I think George definitely used the words here on purpose, and I don't know what it means. That's why I think it's fine to say it here.
I mean, maybe that's why he named his ship Silence.
Maybe.
All right, so now he's taking a ride off to Pebbleton.
Yep, he leaves Hammerhorn.
And it's dark. He needs Gran to give him like the way, right? The fastest way. And as he's riding, he kind of slips off into a sleep. I feel like it's weird to fall asleep riding a horse. Like, it's not like you're riding passenger in a car and it's cool. Like, you kind of need to balance, no? And hold on.
This dude's diet's probably like seawater and like kelp and other just scavenged weird shit he finds at the beach.
He drank seawater. We didn't mention that earlier. He drank a big gulp of seawater. Like,
sometimes it tastes good.
Are you mixing in a normal water every now and then, bro?
Like, this dude is nuts, man. I like, he probably just passes out everywhere.
And I drink my own urine. I do it because I like the taste of it. With dodgeball.
Yeah. Sterile. Yeah.
It's sterile and I like the taste.
Yeah, but this is where he dreams of his brother Yuri, and he lost half of his hand to the finger dance.
Hold on, before that, I think one of the other cool things, kind of like their way of life that he says that the good brother had offered him a night stay at the castle, and he says, no, the comforts are for when you're dead in the watery hall. Life is for suffering so that you can be made strong. It's like,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, relax, dude. Just fucking sleep in the house. Like, why punish yourself?
I feel like Damper and Stannis, I feel like would get along.
Yeah,
maybe.
I feel like they're both hardcore to whatever your code is. That's what they believe in, and that's that's how they live their life.
Yeah, I just feel like that was kind of the Renly's message with the peach, right? Was like, yo, dude, enjoy the fruits of life, enjoy the sweet. You have more than half the people, the 90% of the people in this realm. Just enjoy it every once in a while. Don't be such stick up your butt. But yeah. So now talk of Yuri. Thinking of Yuri, I guess.
Yep. Yuri and how Yuri lost his half of his hand and playing the finger dance. We don't know kind of what that means at this point yet, Kyle.
Yeah, we did. There was a story way back when, I think, where they were throwing axes at some wedding or something.
Yeah, finger dance
or some event.
It seems pretty much just like catch, but with the axe, where you're playing catch with somebody but with an axe, and you either like try and catch it, or you're like, fuck, this is a bad throw, and try and dodge it or jump over it. But
sounds fun.
It normally ends in losing fingers, which is why it's called the finger dance.
Yeah,
which is what happened to Yuri.
And back in the day, the maester tried to sew. He was pretty confident he could sew him back on, but that festered and he died. Yuri done died.
And the third wife is getting blamed here, right? Because so Aeron's mom had died, or she was gone, whatever. We're on to the third wife, who was from the Greenland. She was a piper, a Riverlander.
Believe this bullshit. Yeah.
So she kind of backs at the maester. That's only important because the maester tries his maester work. Aeron thinks that what they should have done, he doesn't explain super well, but he says they should have used fire and seawater. So, again, he wouldn't definitely have got his fingers back, but I can't imagine that in the medieval times, like, even with the most advanced, whatever a maester is doing surgery-wise, even if you sew those puppies back on, you're not using them, right? Like, there's
probably not. Yeah, they're not reconnecting tendons and nerves and stuff.
Who gives a fuck? Just burn the shit, stick it in some water. Like Aeron's right on this one. Actually, I think probably.
Yeah.
It was just an aesthetic thing. There's no like
cauterize in.
Yeah. So he's pissed off that they gave it to the maester. Maester did all his maester stuff, and it did not work. He died in the end. They ended up cutting off his arm.
Didn't save him. And when Balon returned home, send me that maester.
Cuts off 3 of his fingers and tells the wife of his father, his stepmom, hey, try and fix this maester. He'll tell you how to do it. Same way he tried to fix my brother. And
this is your fault, lady. Yeah.
It worked as well for the maester as it did for Yuri. And a little bit later, the third wife died from giving birth to a stillborn daughter.
Yeah. So, and we find out that it was Aeron's axe that did the damage kind of at the end.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. So after that, he drank a lot, became the party clown, just could pee really far and like to show that trick off.
That was what he was known for. Yeah, exactly.
There's worse things to be known for, I guess.
Yeah, he once won a flock of sheep by pissing out an entire fire with just his piss, and then he named his ship after it and called the Golden Storm. That's the ship that he went down on during Balon's rebellion. It got destroyed by Fury, our favorite, which is also Fury is now destroyed. Bottom of Blackwater Bay.
Yep, but died in the Blackwater. Yeah.
Yep, and then this is, I think it's not told, but he drowned, right? Like he was at sea, kind of washed ashore to the Castle Rock shores.
Says Aeron had drowned and reborn from the sea, the god's own prophet. No mortal man could frighten him. Yeah,
I think that's weird, but I think that's
well. This is they mentioned this rusted hinge. Hang on, we skipped it once already. I don't want to skip it again here because that has to mean something, right?
I think I'm before you guys I think when he talks about being held captive after he washed ashore, he talks about how he proved that krakens can piss further than lions. And
yeah, we skipped a little.
So to Jeff's point, I 100% thought what you thought, that like him drowning here, that he actually drowned in this battle and got washed up, and that was his like real drowning that changed him. But after he washed up, he's still doing his pissing shit in this. Like, it doesn't seem like he's like taking the drown god seriously. You know what I'm saying? And that's the only line that says that makes me think that is the fact that he's out pissing people in the.
No. I think this line here is that he spent the rest of the war in the bowels of castle, like in the dungeons,
as a prisoner,
and then he made it out. Yeah, and then he made it out. He came out on top essentially, and that's what he's saying, that krakens can piss farther and longer than lions and boars and shit. Like fuck all that stuff. I made it out.
Oh, I thought he was literally just like winning pissing contests with other people in the cell until he got
ransomed. What's his boars or chickens? Like, why would that be? Like, I think he's just saying like I thought
it was just other sigils that I wasn't actually thinking.
Oh, maybe,
about,
but I just took it to mean like he's like we came out on top in the end.
Okay, that's fair. That definitely is better than the way because the way I take it is he's still doing some of his party boy stuff after the drowning, which makes me think
he seems different.
I think he's a lot different after the drowning.
Well, that makes sense, but that line is super weird.
I mean, he had to pee somewhere. Like, you got to pee.
I guess. But
you're not going to pee.
That's cool.
You're not going to pee on your bed in the cell. Like, you're going to pee far away.
Well,
right?
If he started drinking seawater, that's got to affect his stream. I mean, you got to be super dehydrated.
Well, he's going to be dehydrated. Right? Like,
so you're not peeing nearly as far anymore. So.
I think he's faking. He's faking the saltwater drinks.
It is weird too that like that's his thing, but yeah.
They're taking that and someone's off boiling it and.
Well, let us know in the comments what you think about that, because I thought that was weird. Because it definitely.
No, dude, he like scooped it out and then drank it. We were at the lake.
What are you talking about?
One of the state park. Earlier, he scooped the salt water out of the ocean, and then he drank out of the
every
thing.
now and again. But the majority of the other stuff is.
We were at a state park earlier this year, and at the lake, and there was swimming section. There's a kid that finished an iced tea, and they went down to there's a Lipton Brisk. And they went into the water and filled it up with lake water, and then started drinking the lake water out of the can. It was the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. So maybe that kid's Aaron of the lake.
Yeah. All right. So. Grayson, the son, right? Is this another son? Who the fuck's Grayson?
Graydon is the one that was sent with Aaron to show him the shortest path.
Graydon. I always get these names get auto corrected, and so it's just a
modern name. Yeah.
Who knows what I'm gonna see in these names? Like Aaron became Aaron, and a lot of these I'm just like, what the hell?
Yeah,
but
sure.
Graydon's like, is this gonna become a war? And we don't know.
Maybe. Yeah, he says maybe.
I only think Victarion is the only godly man, right? He says that. That's how he describes him. And we know Euron was exiled for...
We don't know why, but...
Exiled.
Sent away, can't come
you
back
don't get exiled for doing good stuff.
And I will say...
So he does mention...
Go ahead, go.
I was just going to say, he doesn't mention that they're not sure what happened to Theon still, right?
Yeah, they don't know. But no one likes him.
Yeah, but he's a crippled guy. He's a crippled Greenlander.
My prediction is Theon comes back and takes some of this, but we'll see.
Okay. What I was going to say is you had also mentioned, Kyle, that there was this sound of a rusted hinge. We mentioned the one earlier. The one I don't know if I have the quote for the one earlier. The one here is the sound of a door opening, the scream of rusted iron hinge. Euron has come again. It did not matter. He was the damp hair priest, beloved of the god. So,
I mean, my thought on that was just like him in the cells and Euron freeing him from Castle Rock. But I don't. Okay. A very vague. Rusted Iron Creek, like to go off that to try and figure out what he's talking about is.
No, I don't hate it. I like the idea.
Okay. I forgot that Theon was supposedly at the Flayer's house, though, right?
Yes.
Bolton's.
Yes.
Yeah. So maybe he doesn't show up. I forgot where he last was. I thought he was missing.
I'll save maybe my comments on that till the end.
Okay.
All right. So as he shows up to Pebbleton, as he's going, right, he goes town to town and kind of preaches the word of the king's dead, the drowned god. We need to come together now. A storm's coming.
He still doesn't know exactly what he wants, but he's like, yeah, bad. We need to do something. Right?
We need to do something. Follow me. And he does get about a dozen people who he then kind of adds into the drowned men.
Yeah.
and they get the Peloton. His followers got a dope camp set up for him. Nice sealskin tents, the whole deal.
Well, dope for a guy who lives very sparsely
on the beach.
He's got like a seaweed tent set up
for a homeless dude on the beach. yeah.
He's literally got like a seaweed tent, but yeah, exactly. Better than a lot of the other people. I think the other people are just like laying on the ground outside or whatever. But yeah.
Yeah, this is definitely a weird cult.
Yeah. I mean, again, I like them. I don't like them in that I would join them, but yeah, they're interesting. That I would definitely watch like a 10-hour YouTube documentary on these guys. yeah,
be glad they live somewhere far away.
Yeah, and it says there's 2 score. I think score is 20, right? So this means 40. He's got 40 of these cats who are like pretty loyal to him, and they all wear these like robes, and they got these driftwood sticks. They got sticks. They got like clubs, right? Cudgel means stick, right?
Yeah, it's a wooden club.
I was gonna actually Google what a cudgel was. I didn't know if it was like a big seashell type thing that you could stick on a stick or
maybe.
No, it's like just a stick with like a knot on the
short,
end of it.
Like thick stick, yeah.
yeah. Just a club.
There's just a bunch of cudgels laying around the
It's all driftwood, so it's all from
driftwood.
The sea.
It's all the sea gives them to them, yeah.
All right. Nothing like having a nice cudgel to whack people with. It's kind of like Rafiki, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. But it's time to pray. He needs an answer. And the more he thought about it, the more it needed to be Victarion, but he just couldn't sleep.
He goes out into the ocean.
Yeah,
right?
He couldn't sleep. Let me go pray.
It's weird. He like definitely favors Victarion, but he won't just say like let's pick Victarion. You know what I mean? Like he could tell everyone like let's just pick Victarion. He's godly. But he's like, no, he ends up with this whole other thing. But yeah, I guess
it makes me think that there's some kind of text, right, about their way of life and who's the leader of them. Like there has to be, or he's
pulling a lot of shit out of his ass.
But Victarion's really like the third, like the independent partier, right? Like they have Asha's on, if there's a 2-sided poll, like no one's even really thinking about Victarion, right? Because Euron's back.
He's like Renly.
He's here. He's got the chair, but Asha's been kind of leading and doing the thing. So maybe she's like the popular vote, right? And then you have Victarion. It sounds like Victarion, just from under Balon's reign, was under Asha, right? Asha was like the VP type of thing. So
I feel like even though I said that the lords didn't seem to have a problem with Asha, I feel like even on the mainland, people don't like women. So I feel like Asha is at a disadvantage for that reason, even though she seems kind of badass. I think Victarion would be leading in the polls for sure. He is the admiral of the fleet. He was one of the brothers, but not the second eldest. People seem to not like this Euron guy, so
that's what I was gonna say about why I said he's like Renly, right? Like, and he also has no claim either. Like, so Renly was behind Stannis and Joffrey, essentially, right? Depending on how you believe that.
Sure.
And then that's kind of how this is, where Victarion's behind Theon
and Euron,
Asha and Euron as well. So it's kind of a similar situation where he's like the outsider, but he's also kind of the favorite and has a good claim at the throne.
Yeah, when he's favored enough people are willing to look past it. And also, like we said earlier, he does have the fleet. So
yeah. All right, so let me go into the water. He's butt-ass naked. The water's cold, but he ain't worried about that. It's his god.
You had to love this, Jeff, because you love the old guys talking through the leaves and the wind, and he's basically like praying for, send me your answer through the waves.
He's just getting waved to the chest, which for someone who enjoys being in the ocean,
with messages from the god,
you go under that shit. You don't take waves to the chest.
It's the god sending a message. You can't go under.
Yeah, I'm not a drowned man guy.
No.
And they gave him the answer he needed. It needed to be from their bones, which what the fuck does that mean? But he had his answer
because the ocean made him remember that he had cold bones inside of him. Right, that was essentially what happened.
Bones, he thought, the bones of the soul, Balon's bones and Yuri's. The truth is in our bones, for flesh decays and bones endure. And on the hill of Naga, the bones of the Grey King's hall.
There you go.
Yep.
And he went to sleep. He had his answer and slept like a baby that night. Yep. And at breakfast, they had a nice little spread. Actually, the breakfast did sound kind of legit.
It sounded like a breakfast on a loan. What are you talking about? It was like seaweed and limpets. What are you talking about?
He had clams.
That's a limpet, I think. It's the same shit.
I'm sure they know how to cook seaweed better than anybody. I was kind of like, ooh, maybe a little butter and garlic. You got a little meal here.
I was literally like, these guys are living like the guys on a loan, eating seaweed and clams.
Thank you, Nelson. What is Jeff on right now?
Maybe I'm just an Ironborn.
You're built.
This guy is crazy.
Wait, let me find this meal. Let me find this meal. I thought it was a solid meal. A burgers fast on a broth of clams and seaweed cooked above a driftwood fire. Like, I'm sure that shit tasted fire.
Some kelp.
Literally cooked on wood washed up from the sea. Like, none of that.
I like clams. You don't like clams?
Not really, but.
Well, that's why the clams are good.
Yeah, maybe if you have some like butter and salt, this guy's definitely.
They got butter and salt.
Water.
They made a broth. It's not like they salt water.
What are you talking about? That's just they just had water, clams, and seaweed. That's what a broth is.
But then they boiled it and they got flavor. They got all the flavor. You guys are fools. You guys are
nice
nothing.
Seaweed and saltwater tea. Wash it down.
You guys are nothing. Fine. All right, and he came with Merlin, the guy from the tower at Pebbleton, came down. He had a raven from Pike, which was Euron's raven, and then he also got a raven from 10 Towers, which is where Asha has set up camp.
Yes. Harlaw, seat of House Harlaw.
He's like, yo, not right now. Like, it's time to prayer. Like, join school, Merlin. If you wanna get with old Aaron right now, sit down. Get this preach.
Because now he knows what he's gonna say already. He's got to build up
he has a sermon, right? He's ready.
Hell yeah.
He's doing the pomp and circumstance now, building up the making a show of it.
Oh yeah, buddy, you better sit down. You won't believe what I have to say. Yeah.
I don't have exactly what he preaches, Nelson, if you want to get into the details, but his followers are like, yo, damp hair for king. He's ready.
Well,
damp hair for king. Damp hair for king.
It basically says it can't be Euron, and everyone's first thought is, damp hair then.
Well, he says the king is dead. A king shall rise. Who shall be the new king? Yeah.
He hyped up all his followers. They were ready. Like, yo, it's your turn.
Damp hair king, Aaron king, give us damp hair. They're like, why use many words when few do trick? Aaron king, give us damp hair king, Aaron king.
Damp hair.
Well, once he says not Aaron, they're like damp hair. Once he says no, not me, I was made to serve a god. They're like, okay, then it must be Victarion or Asha. So just fucking tell us already. And he's like, nope. Neither. The god will decide. Point your prow toward Old Wick, where stood the Grey King's Hall. In the name of the drowned god, I summon you. Summon all you. Leave your halls and hovels, your castles and your keeps, and return to Naga's Hill to make a king's moot.
King's moot.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, what a goof this guy is. This is why I love him. I don't know. He's just so like, he's so out there, over the top.
This reminds me of the scene in The Office where Jim convinces Dwight to give like a Hitler speech at like his like sales convention, but then everyone loves it.
He's like, make sure to pound the podium,
and everyone loves it.
Wild hand gestures,
But everyone at the sales convention loves it. That's what Aaron's doing here. You just gotta, if you believe it, I think people will just feel your energy. Follow. You know what I mean? Yeah. You can feel that.
And he brings off that this is the old way of choosing the kings, and he names them all. Got a nice little list. And
King's
bam,
moot.
We got to get back to the old way. It's been too long.
King's moot.
And chapter.
This is I don't want to know what a king's moot is. Like I've thought about looking it up because like sometimes when you find a word that you don't know what it means.
A Game of Thrones word.
This time I was like, this one's probably a Game of Thrones word.
I think it is a Game of Thrones word.
And if it's not, I still don't really want to know what it is because I feel like it's gonna be something crazy. Are they gonna make like a person out of like some crazy out of like the graveyard bones? Who knows what these guys are up to? They're so.
It is a Game of Thrones word.
They're gonna drown like 40 people, probably.
Game of Thrones word, not a real word. Just look it up. Only in Game of Thrones.
Is this the first actual Game of Thrones word?
No, it's not the first one.
We say it jokingly.
Well, no, we say it because Nelson doesn't know words. Exactly.
There are some weird words. There are some Game of Thrones words for sure.
But this one is a real Game of Thrones word. Yeah, like that he made up for this book. Yep. So
yeah,
we won't tell Kyle about it.
Yeah. All right, Kyle. Final thoughts. Theon's coming back.
The other thing I did want to ask you about, kind of pointedly, is they mentioned that they call Euron Crow's Eye. Do you have any thoughts on like the nickname?
That seems like all brand thing, right? Like where he can kind of warg.
I don't know if we'd heard this before. So we had heard Euron once or twice, like in a Theon chapter or whatever. But I didn't know if we had heard this nickname. So
I don't remember him.
But okay.
specifically, but that's the way I saw it. Was like he's a seer or a warg or something.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Any other thoughts in general? I think there's definitely a. Who wins this? Like,
is it like the crow's eye, like the guy from another Dunkin' Egg reference, the Thousand Eyes, 1001 Eyes? What was his name?
Blood Raven.
Blood Raven. That's what it was.
Brandon Rivers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Who becomes the next leader of the Iron Islands is, I guess, my question. Which might not be like an immediate prediction. Like, it might not have a next chapter or even next Aeron chapter.
Like I said, I thought it was Theon, but then I thought about it a little harder about where Theon's last known whereabouts, and makes me second guess that. But I don't know, man. I put my money on Victarion at this point, I think.
Okay.
That's where we're at.
Victarion and the fleet. There we go.
Yep.
Bada bang, bada boom. Damp hair, baby.
Good chapter.
Damp hair. Yeah, for sure.
I think the first time I read this chapter, I was pronouncing it damn fair.
Me too. I think I did too. I think for the first time I read the book, I think
Nelson actually screwed me up with that. Like, he's got damp hair.
Yeah, damp hair.
He's Aeron damp hair, not damn fair.
I think the first time I read this book, for some reason, I just never realized it was damp hair, and I always thought it was damp fair. I just like an actual Game of Thrones
I'm actually
word.
blaming you now. You've screwed me up.
PH was an F sound, not a P, and then a hair.
I thought damp hair was too on the nose, so I was kind of hoping it wasn't that.
I think he only gets mentioned
but
by
he
that
definitely
once
names
or twice.
himself that, right? Like, he called himself that.
But he also calls himself a prophet.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. This is like a self-given nickname, probably.
And he seems to think in third person. He says like Aeron was the weak
damp
one.
hair.
Aeron, the prophet, damp hair.
Yeah,
great.
He calls himself a lot of
It's not that hard.
Yeah, he's wacky.
Next chapter.
The captain
of the guard. That's probably Jamie, if I had to guess.
Ooh.
All right.
So
we'll see Kyle in that one. We'll see the rest of you guys in the spoiler section for the prophet Aeron 1. Bye bye.
Later, nerds.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Bye, Kyle.
Bye, Kyle. See you on the next one.
Thanks for hanging out with us.
Now, on to the spoiler section for the prophet Aeron 1. Jeff, what we got? Anything?
It's been so long since I've read this. Like, I know the Kingsmoot chapter is a weird fucking chapter too, and I think it's in Aeron's point of view, right?
I think it.
Or did we get a couple different ones?
I think you're right. I think that is Aeron. I think Aeron's next chapter is the Kingsmoot.
I'll say this: rereading this time was a lot easier for me, like to follow along and like actually understand kind of what this was in the whole wheel of Game of Thrones. But
yeah,
I remember the first time I read the Kingsmoot chapter, like, this is fucking weird. I know we spend some time on 10 Towers, right? We meet some other people.
Don't they do a Kingsmoot in the... I mean, it's nowhere near the same as in the books, but
it's
they
a
do
quick,
a Kingsmoot
like, little, like,
in the show.
I want to be king. I want to be king. I want to be king.
Yeah.
And then they choose Euron and Asha.
You're going to hate the actual Kingsmoot chapter because there's like 3 or 4 people that don't matter that take up like pages of talking about
I don't
being
care.
king.
I mean, as long as we don't waste time on them.
we will.
But in the show, it's just like, all right, Euron got picked because he was a man type of thing. Yeah. And then Asha and Theon.
Because Victarion doesn't exist.
Victarion doesn't exist, and then Asha and Theon just flee away. And that's like, that was it. By the time he was like dunked under the water, Asha and Theon were already on a ship ready to sail.
And he doesn't even get drowned. Like after he gets chosen in the show, he gets baptized, like in the pussy way. And
I think the stupidest thing ever is that they were all there, right? And they're like, all right, you're on. And they start the drowning or the dunking right away. And in that time, Asha and Theon run away, get all their shit packed up, get on their ship, start sailing away, and get enough distance away that when Euron wakes up and he's like, where's my niece and nephew? Like, obviously they should be like
right there,
300 yards away.
Yeah.
You just got your head dunked.
Yeah, they're trying to get their ships ready to leave. yeah, exactly.
They haven't even got it out of port yet.
But really, they're already on Dany's side, halfway to Westeros.
Yeah,
yeah.
So I don't remember all the details of what goes on in this Ironborn storyline. I know we spent some time with an older lady, right, in 10 Towers, maybe,
an older man, Roderick the
older
Reader.
Man. I don't remember why.
He's just like Asha's favorite uncle, and he likes to read a lot. And he's like, you don't want to do this. This is going to be a bad deal. Just stay out of it. And she's like, no, this is my thing. It's just like,
I think my birthright.
Because the thing is, I think you're right that the next Aeron chapter we get is the King's Moot, but we get a Victarion chapter or maybe 2 and an Asha chapter before that, because those are both POVs in this book, right? So we get a lot more of this Ironborn story from other people that aren't Aeron before we come back to Aeron for the King's Moot. So yeah.
And I don't know, this whole storyline doesn't matter. Does it actually matter?
I think so, because I think Euron is way different in the books than in the show, and I think if there is a lot of people, I think a lot of the book fans, this might be a little hopeful, but I think a lot of the book fans think that Euron might play the role that the Night King type character played, where he is the main bad guy, because there's no Night King. Like I think a lot of people.
We don't know that though. We still don't know.
You're right.
Like even if there's no Night King, there's still the White Walkers, and there's fine, if they're a leaderless gang, they're still the first, right? Like there's still something that's going to set the chain reaction, if that's still a thing too. Like I don't care that if I actually kind of think it's cool that there's no Night King, but they're still there. It doesn't make them less of a threat because there's no
100% agreed
Night King.
Yeah, 100% agreed. The fans just think it is also that the Euron might play the role of the person that steals a dragon, does some of that kind of stuff. Because
but how do you steal a dragon?
Because he has a dragon horn. That's literally he has sent where the books are at the end, where we have seen up to. He has sent Victarion to go to Dany to bring her back so that he can marry her, is what he has told Victarion. I don't know if that's actually his plan, but he has also sent Victarion with this crazy horn that he's telling Victarion can bind dragons, because the horn's called Dragon Binder. So some people, again, I don't know if people honestly believe that'll work.
I mean, Euron's got to do something, but it's just another wrinkle in the fold of what is gonna be Daenerys versus Westeros. But then, we've already had the War of the Five Kings. We have the War of the Four Kings then, and then we have the White Walkers too. I feel like we've just been there, done that type of thing.
I feel like a lot of your criticisms recently have been you don't like something because the story should be getting smaller, but it's not.
Yeah.
And I understand that, but that's just, I don't think that's valid, because they're just not getting small. They're just not. I understand why you think they should be getting smaller.
You have the belief that this thing's going to end in 2 books?
No, I don't. I don't think that. That's what George thinks. I don't think that. I think he needs at least 3. And at this point,
he needs 4 at this point.
Yeah, I agree. And I think George has even started to realize that, because I think some of the things he said about winds is it would kill a rat. I think he has said if they have to split it, I think I'd want them to split it into a part 1, part 2, where both parts get released at the same time. And I don't try and do what I did with Feast and Dance, where I split it up by characters, whatever. I just make a huge book, and if they can't publish it all as one for publishing reasons, whatever, put it out as 2 parts.
Everyone would still buy it. Everybody would still buy it. And do it part 1, part 2.
And I told you, Storm of Sword and Dance of Dragons are already published like that in Europe for publishing reasons. So they're already half your readers, maybe not half, but a lot of people wouldn't be not used.
I don't see this mattering.
I guess my point is, even though George keeps insisting that it's only 2 more books, I think lengthwise it'll be way more than what we have as 2 books. It'll be at least 3 or 4.
None of that matters to me.
Well, it does, because the story's still getting bigger, not getting smaller yet. You're thinking it's getting smaller.
But it doesn't matter because the Greyjoys don't matter on their own. They can't do shit. We know that they can't do shit.
Who can do shit on their own? Starks can't do shit on their own. Lannisters can't do shit on their own.
So the only way that it matters is if Euron does join forces with one of the sides, which is That's show, right? He joined with Cersei.
It's show, but I could see that happening also in the books.
I could see it happening too, and that's the only way I could see it mattering.
I think it's going to matter. I hope it matters. I see why you're concerned about this, because I could see, but I hope that George doesn't just drop this as a side plot that he put in a book for no reason. I hope it becomes just as important as Brienne or whatever.
He doesn't seem to be that kind of author to spend time with multiple POVs to do it. But I'm just saying, what's the end goal for Asha and Euron? I don't know. Is it just to end up splitting them up so that then the Greyjoys are
I mean, what's the end goal for Stannis? But I still like Davos chapters.
I think Stannis should die soon. So
exactly, but I still like Davos. It's not exactly. We don't think Stannis is going to win. Nobody thinks Stannis is going to win. I'm
at the point
but I still
where
like
people
Davos
need
chapters.
more people need to start dying, not more people need to start being introduced.
I think a lot of fans are in your camp. I guess I'm just taking the devil's advocate stance. I think probably on this one. But yeah, what do I have? Iron Hinge. Kyle thought about that.
I don't remember anything about the Iron Hinge.
I'm pretty sure I don't think it's ever clearly spelled out, but we get more hints, kind of like we have in this chapter. So you don't know, but what would you think? I'll tell you, it's not what Kyle said, that Euron rescued him.
Oh, it's the door. They used to get raped. Euron used to rape him.
Euron used to rape him and Yuri. Yes.
Yeah.
And he has these nightmares of the Iron Hinge that meant basically Euron's coming. And I don't know if it's actually in one of the published chapters, so you might not have read this, so this might be a big spoiler for you, but I'm sure if it is, I've already told you. It might be in the Wind's Winter one. Euron at one point says to Aeron, when you heard that Iron Hinge, I would hear you praying. And he's like, were you praying that I would walk past Yuri and come to you? Were you praying that I would spare your brother? Or were you praying that I would molest your brother, who you killed
instead of you,
who you ended up killing instead of you? Like, is that what were you praying for? Because obviously he was praying for him to not get raped himself, which Aeron is playing on this.
He's probably praying for both, right? Like, well, get Euron out of here,
just make him leave. Yeah, but again, I think the implication is he was praying for, obviously looking out for numero uno. Obviously he wasn't wishing ill on his brother, but that's the way Euron's playing this. So Euron is like making this like a super. I mean, Aeron thinks about it a lot, but I think that's when it ends up mattering, is when Euron brings this up to him. Is like, when you heard that Iron Hinge, what did you pray for? You know what I mean? Right. And it's like, he's just fucking mental games at that.
No, I completely forgot till we started talking about it, and then it came back to me.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's all I had. The other thing is, I don't have the actual quote here, but the one thing that Aeron keeps saying is only a godly man can sit the sea stone chair. I think we get the quote in this book, and Euron, it's badass. Euron basically says, when I was sailing around, everywhere I went, everywhere men saw my sails, they prayed. He's like, I'm the most godly man alive. He says it in a way more badass way. I feel
like I'm gonna like Euron more this read through, just as a character.
He's so crazy.
Not like I like him, but I'm gonna enjoy him.
Yeah.
Kyle thought Theon's gonna come back. He kind of flipped a switch on that.
Yeah, he thought. Well, I think it's interesting because I think he's kind of right in both aspects. I don't think Theon. We know Theon's not a player in the King's Moot, but I think part of Theon's role going forward in the future books could be to show back up and be like, hey, because I don't think we heard about it here. Again, I don't have great. I need to go back and clean up my notes on the last third of this chapter. I don't think we heard about it here. I think we hear about it when Asha's with Roderick the Reader. There was a King's Moot that happened before that one of the people who had a really good claim was thought dead. And they held the King's Moot, and then it turned out that person was alive, and it like kind of made them redo the King's Moot, like it invalidated it. So a lot of people think that's foreshadowing for Theon. So I think Kyle's right in that Theon is going to be a kind of a player in this, and he's also right that Theon's too far away to matter. Like this is going to happen too soon. I think he's right because the King's Moot is going to happen, but also if Theon does get out of there in a halfway decent shape in any way, even if it's Asha using him, right, which is kind of how the show does it, I think he will be a way to invalidate the King's Moot in some way. You know what I mean? So,
all right.
Yeah, cool, awesome. Next one, Kyle's wrong. The Captain of the Guard's not Jaime. It's
not Jaime Lannister. Arya
Hota, exactly. Yep, we're in Dorne. See you guys then. Like, subscribe. Thanks for listening.